today's class on Shmiras HaLashon. We are in Book 2, Section 4. Book 2, Section 4. Video. So, but if you are looking for Book 2, Section 4, you're in the right place. It's a lovely day to talk about Lashon Hara because we see clearly how through the sin of Lashon Hara, how people manifest a number of terrible things throughout the world and in themselves, and manifest terrible things all over the place. So today we're going to speak specifically about one issue the Chafetz Chaim wants to discuss, which is that through doing wrong through your tongue, basically, if you bring sin to yourself as a result of your speech, then the things that you have done wrong become that much more obvious up above. And it ruins yourself and it ruins the world. Okay, so let's talk about self-destructive ideology today. It says in the Torah, this is in the book of Shmos, okay? It's the second chapter, and it's verse 14. And Moshe saw the following, became afraid. Achen noda hadavar, he says, they found out about it. So just some context. Chafetz Chaim quotes the verse. The context is Moshe Rabbeinu is an Egyptian beating his brethren, so he strikes the Egyptian, right? He sees him, he looks left and right, strikes the Egyptian and buries him in the sand, okay? That's word for word quote, basically, translated. Okay, and then he sees two Jews fighting. And then they go, are you going to strike me like you struck the Egyptian? Uh-oh, the thing that I did has been known. So Rashi explains the following. Moshe had the following issue. He was drawn back by this. How is it possible that the Jewish people could be struck more so than any other nation? How is it possible? And then I see why they bring that on themselves. Okay? Meaning, I don't understand why they deserve. I don't understand why. Okay? But now I see that it's something that they're doing. So this is that causes them to receive this punishment. So why is that? There's a punishment that is discussed in another verse, because it says in Yechezkel, okay, this is in chapter 20, that there were so many sins that you could tack onto the Jewish people. Avodah Zarah, right? You'd have, which is one of the worst that you could do. But, the one thing he wonders more than anything else is, how is it possible that the sin of Lashon Hara could be so widespread amongst them? So as bad as Avodah Zarah was, Lashon Hara was even more disconcerting, and was even more of a reason to understand why the punishments came upon them, why they were more likely to receive a more significant punishment. The Zohar says the following about this, because Lashon Hara wakes up the prosecutor angels, okay, and it looks to prosecute the issues that the Jewish people have committed, any wrong deeds they may have committed. And this, as a result, is what brings death and destruction and murder to the world. Okay, it's funny. He says Misa, Charava, Katala. Okay, so those are the Misa and Katala are very similar. Misa is death, it brings death, destruction, and murder. The Zohar says the following in Parshas Pikudei. There is a very particular thing. Okay, there's a thing. It is like a familiar thing. It's the word over here is there's a spirit, okay, and it stands upon people who speak Lashon Hara. And when people, or even one person, they poke it, it then becomes something called a sichsucha. Okay, a sichsuch means to, the sachsech means to bring up contention between people. And they fight with each other. And when you wake that up, it goes up to the heavens, and that rouses the angel of death in some ways. It rouses death. I don't know if he means here that it rouses just death in general. It just says that it wakes those things up. Mosach, Rava, and Katal, like I said earlier. I don't think it doesn't specifically state the angel of death, but it refers to those things being woken up. Woe it is to those who have awakened the evil inclination, the Sitra Achra, and they do not keep their mouths and their tongues, and do not concern themselves with what they say, because the lower is dependent on the higher. Whatever wakes one up wakes up the other one. And they all conspire to wake up a very large evil spirit, which here is called the Chivya Rabba, a great snake. Okay, so it's like a Nachash, but it's a metaphor for evil being aroused, and that's what Lashon Hara does. It arouses it from below and up. Okay, that's the end of that Zohar. Here's what it means. Okay, without Lashon Hara, the power of recalling all the bad negative things that are done here on this planet, and to orchestrate judgment against them, is only done when these things happen, and things would be better if this wasn't happening. And Moshe Rabbeinu himself knew that. He knew there were so many sins that were being performed in Egypt, but at first he thought that's not a problem of Lashon Hara. So therefore, the Satan should not be able to rouse up the punishments against them. He's not able to prosecute them. And this is further established in the Midrash Rabbah in Vayikra. It says that in the generation of Achav, one of the kings of Judah, even though they were worshiping idols, listen, they were successful in their wars because they didn't say anything bad about each other. In the days of King David and in the days of King Shaul, even though they had little children around, everyone was experiencing, and they also knew 49 aspects of Torah. They were nonetheless falling in battle. Why? Because they had these delinquencies attached to themselves. Okay, and so therefore, since Moshe Rabbeinu had this delinquency attached to him, he had this negative thing attached to him. They bring up Lashon Hara, he sees that clearly that was the problem. However, the sin should have been avodah zarah, of worshiping foreign gods. That should have been woken up and aroused up above. However, all their sins get woken up at that point, and that's why they get punished for every little thing that's done. So therefore, a person can understand the following and be careful from performing other sins. So that way you don't ruin yourself. Because a person, when they speak Lashon Hara, especially about their friend, they are punished with it. They are punished with it, mida keneged mida. Okay? They are punished, they are meted out an equal amount of punishment to it. And those are things that are said up above. And just like we see from Rabbeinu Chaim Vital, may his memory be a blessing, in the gate of Kedusha, writes the following: when you make mention of the bad things your friends does, the stories about you get retold. The bad stories about you get retold as well. And that just makes it worse for everybody, because then everybody's bad things get all retold. Okay? And that's what we're saying above from that Zohar. Now we find in the Torah, says the Chafetz Chaim, that if you steal something from your friend, the way you fix that is to give him back what you have taken. And if you injure a person verbally, or you humiliate that person, the way you fix that up is to ask him for forgiveness. However, when you are significantly entrenched in Lashon Hara, he's not really saying that, but that's what he's trying to get at. right? You're just he's saying the word he uses is accustomed to it, but it's referring to being entrenched in it. You're so involved in lashon hara. Well, you're going to wake up the prosecutor, who's going to have a great time prosecuting everything in this world. And who knows how many different people are going to lose money because of this. They're going to die because of this. Even though amongst the regular person, there's no punishment that can be meted out. But in heaven, which can be done through any type of cause, okay? And he says, check out the story in Bava Kama about Shaul. Okay, so a person will not be drawn back into this. A person who guards their spirit, they will guard themselves significantly. Okay, so that's the end of section 4. So the story of Shaul is the following here. So let me open up the Gemara over here real quick. Okay, we're looking in Bava Kama Nun Hey. Open up to the right page here. So let's go through this story over here real quick. So in Bava Kama Nun Hey, it says the following. Funny story with Bava Kama. So one time there was a certain non-Jew who was testifying in a court that he understood the Jewish religion. And so this was in Russia in what was known as the trial, where there was a blood libel against Jewish people. And so the defense attorney went up to this expert in the Jewish religion and he said, "Are you familiar with Bava Kama?" And the church leader said, "I'm not familiar with her." "How about Bava Metzia?" "Don't know her either." So, but apparently they were making the point they weren't much of an expert when they weren't familiar with the Talmud at all. Okay, so the case in the Gemara is as follows. Now, this is referring to the issues so Shaul Melech was engaged in a battle. He was engaged in a battle with the Plishtim, with the Philistines. And with the Philistines, he found that he was just not going to be successful. Okay? So the question is, well, why was it that he was not more successful? So let's go through this Gemara over here. I'm just trying to find it on the page here. 1 second. It's an interesting section of Gemara because I don't remember this thing off the top of my head, unfortunately, because it's in the middle of Hakone Son Ladir, referring to if you put animals into a cage, they can become very uncomfortable. So I'm trying to see where this Gemara is. It says in my edition it says Nun Hey. That's why I'm not remembering it. Okay, yeah, I don't see it here, and I don't know what the Gemara is referring to. So maybe it's a typo in here. So I don't know what the case is because I'm not familiar. It was too broad a case, so I don't know what it's referring to. It says Shaul and Dathan. Hey, so over there it's like Kone Son Latir. So I don't know why it's bringing it up. Okay. So let's see. It says over here, also look in Bava Kama on Kuf Yud Tes, so 119. Let's see what Gemara he's referring to. And so in this case also, let's see. There's a bunch of Agadata in here, so let's see which one he's referring to. Okay, not a whole lot of Agadata on this. Okay, I don't know what he's referring to on Meises Shaul. Yeah, okay, I don't know what he's referring to. Okay, my apologies. I don't know what he's referring to with this case. Yeah, just talking about different things. Just talking about different things that you can buy from artisans. You know. Question is what's considered leftover belongs to the person who gave him the stuff that was not left over. All right, that's the end of. So that is 4. All right, so 4 was quite short today. And I think 5 is quite involved and quite long. So I'll have to say that for another time. And it's also not related. So we'll pick up next time with section 5. So just remember that when you speak Lashon Hara, that those who are speaking Lashon Hara, they are bringing significant trouble to the world by their actions, and it causes the heavenly court to be much more attentive to holding them accountable. So we will hold with that for today. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for watching. We'll pick up next week with section 6. Take care.